FORTWORTH family, it's Fabian, BigBossFabo. I'm back with a late night reaction, man. I actually did one of these last night, I believe. Was it last night? Yeah. I did a Explore With Us reaction. I'm thinking about doing these every night, man. Just to put it out there, expect these every night, man. I'm trying to, upload as much possible content anyway, so why not just do these? But nah, maybe I jumped the gun. Expect these like Friday nights, man. I should probably do these like 3 days a week, maybe Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But I'm just chilling right now. I said, why not just go live, just do a video, do a reaction. Yesterday, somebody had recommended I do a MrBallen reaction. And I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I'm kind of not the biggest fan of MrBallen. And I don't even want to put that out there, man. I rock with MrBallen. Some of his stories are cool, but maybe it's just the way in which the content is presented that I'm not the biggest fan of. I like to have a lot of what do they have, reenactments going. Give me visuals, give me pictures. Don't sit there and just talk. You know what I mean? And I feel like MrBallen kind of just like, it's him on the screen and he narrates, but it's like I like seeing pictures associated with narration. You know what I mean? But hey, let's do this. I'm doing this one for the fans, man. Shout out to the recommendation for MrBallen. I'm doing this one for the supporters. Let's say that. So with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on Instagram, Twitter at FortWorthFabian. It's about to be midnight here, man. I was going to start watching some Unusual Suspects, but I say, hey, man, let's put some work in. Let's upload a YouTube video. Let's do a live stream. And yeah, this video is 20 minutes long, so shout out to everybody in the live stream. Looks like we got 4 people in here right now. So be sure to hit the like button. Every time you hop into a live stream, do me the favor and hit the like button, man. It only helps me on YouTube. Let's get into this video.
That's when I truly understood how much...
We got Victor in the building, man. Shout out to Victor. Who else we got in the live stream, man? Who else we got in the live stream? Let me know. How many viewers we got right now? We got 4 people watching. All right, y'all, let's get into this reaction.
Don't forget, we survived for 200,000 years without being anywhere near the top of the food chain. And our ancient ancestors were able to do that by developing survival instincts. And those survival instincts are still buried in our subconscious today. So when you have a bad feeling about something, like something's wrong here, I don't know what it is, you should listen to that because it might just save your life. Before I get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and...
I call that 6th sense. We got Spidey sense, y'all. If y'all didn't know, we got Spidey sense.
Serious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please sneak under the like button's chair and tie their shoelaces together. Also, please subscribe to this channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Alright, let's get into today's stories. By the summer of 2007, Chris had been working as a park ranger in southeastern Pennsylvania for a number of years, and by and large, he enjoyed his occupation. Some of the time, he got to do what he loved, which was hiking in the forest. And some of the time, it required doing something he hated, which was office work that usually required staying late at night. On one of those late nights, in August of 2007, Chris's boss, Mike, said that he needed to leave the office and go down the access road to this tool shed they had. He needed to get some equipment and bring it back up to the office for some reason, and he said he'd be back in about 15 minutes. As soon as Mike left, Chris decided, you know what, I'm gonna take a break from my work and I'm gonna step outside for a minute. Right in front of the office building was a little staff parking lot, and then about 50 meters beyond that was the edge of this really dense forest where the access road that Mike had just gone down to get to the tool shed basically split right through the middle and went straight out past the office. When Chris stepped outside to take his break, he sat down on the front steps that overlooked that parking lot and the access road, and he was just kind of looking out towards the forest, not thinking about what he was looking at, just kind of mindlessly sitting there, when all of a sudden he just started to feel like someone's watching me. And instinctively, he turned around to look back into the office, as if maybe someone was behind him, but he remembered that he and Mike were the only ones there that night, so no one's going to be behind him. And so he turned back around, and he looked out at the parking lot, and he didn't see any movement.
Hey, it's Rick from Walking Dead. Come on.
And he looked down to the edge of the forest, which he could see because the moon was fairly bright that night, so the illumination was pretty good. And there was no movement against the tree line, there was no animals, there was no people, and Mike had not come back yet. So there's nothing going on in front of him, there's nothing going on behind him, but he just could not shake this feeling that someone was watching him. And so Chris, he's not easily spooked. He's used to being out in the forest in the daytime and at night. He's used to being at this office. A lot of times he worked at the office on his own at night. So he's used to this environment. And so he thought, you know what, I'm going to go look around. And so he walks down the steps and he walks into the parking lot and he begins looking behind some of the cars. There's only a handful in the lot. There's nothing in the lot, and he keeps walking till he's about 10 meters away from the edge of the forest. And he looks into the forest, and it's too dark to see anything, and there's nothing out here. There's no movement, there's no animals. Mike is still not back yet, and so even though he could not shake this sense that someone is watching him, he felt like, you know what, I did my diligence, and there's no one out here, so it's just gotta be in my head. And so he decides he's gonna go back inside, and so he turns around, and he starts walking back up towards the office, when all of a sudden he hears this whooshing sound come past his head. And he didn't know what it was, but it sounded like someone took a stick and threw it overhand, so it's spinning like a tomahawk as it passed by his head. And because this sound was so loud, and he was already on edge about someone potentially watching him, that he actually dove as soon as he heard it and fell to the ground and scrambled around and looked at the tree line from where this thing came from, but there's no one there. And he scrambles to his feet and he's still looking around and he starts backpedaling towards the office with his eyes still on the forest, and his attention kind of shifts from the forest to what was just thrown at me. And he turns around and starts walking around looking for something on the ground, like a stick, to see if something really was thrown at him, but he can't find anything. He didn't do an exhaustive search. He didn't look under every single car, but an initial scan turned up nothing. And then he turns back to the forest and he doesn't see anything out there. And even though, again, he feels totally stressed out, like something's out here and I can't see it, he's like, am I going crazy? Did that really happen? Because I can't find this big stick that apparently flew past my head. So is this all happening in my head? But regardless, he's totally freaked out and he sprints back inside the office and locks every door. 20 minutes later, Mike comes blazing up the access road. He stops in front of the office and runs up the stairs. Chris goes over, unlocks the door, and he lets him in. And Chris is about to tell him about this crazy stick throwing incident, but he can tell Mike is really upset about something. Probably more upset about whatever happened to him than Chris is about the stick throwing thing. And so Chris tables his story, he locks the doors behind Mike, and he turns to him and he says, "What's going on? What's wrong with you?" At first, Mike doesn't say anything. He just paces back and forth inside the office. And then finally, Chris calms him down and he gets him to explain what happened. Mike tells him that he was down at the tool shed, which is about a half mile down the access road and about 20 meters off the road into the forest. And he's at the shed, it's open, and he's pulling out the different pieces of equipment he's going to bring back to the office. And he says all of a sudden, all the hairs on his body stand up. He's got goosebumps. And immediately he thinks, someone's watching me. And he turns around and there's no one there. He looks to his right and his left. He kind of pokes his head in the shed, like is someone hiding in the shed? There's no one in there. He walks to the back of the shed. There's no one behind the shed. And he's just totally stumped why he's feeling this way. He goes back to the front of the shed and he's going over in his mind what made him feel this way. And he can't put his finger on it, but he cannot shake this feeling of someone watching him. And it's making him totally anxious. So he gets all the things he needs from the shed as quick as he can. He locks it up, he turns, and he starts speed walking back out to his truck. When he gets about 5 meters away, he hears footsteps running right to left behind him back where the shed is. And because he was already completely on edge about someone watching him in the woods somewhere, he doesn't even turn around to see what that is. He knows he needs to run to his car and get inside and put steel between him and whatever is out there. Once he's inside, he locks the door, he turns on the ignition, and looks one last time in the direction of where he came from. And to his horror, there is a man walking into the woods right next to the shed, turning the corner behind and disappearing into the woods. His instincts were spot on. He was being watched. And that's when Mike hit the gas and sped back to the office. Chris then tells Mike about his stick throwing incident because all of a sudden that seems a whole lot more real, and they both agree that whoever threw something at Chris is probably the same guy who was hiding near the shed with Mike. Concerned this guy might come back and break into the office, they stay the night there and they watch the whole time. They don't see him again. And the next morning they file a report and they tell the incoming park rangers what happened. But after this, there were no more reports of this strange hooded figure roaming around the forest. And to this day, Chris and Mike have no idea who he is or what he wanted. But they can both agree, whoever he was bad news.
Interesting. At first, I thought the story was going to be related to some type of ghost because, the first gentleman heard the whooshing or the sound zoom by his ear, but he didn't see anything. The second gentleman actually caught, an individual at his peripheral or out the corner of his eye. You know what I mean? This is honestly like this is my second MrBallen video to ever really sit down and watch all the way through. The first one I did actually was a recent upload of his, or it may be one of his more popular ones. I'm not too positive, but with that, he's a good narrator. He's a good storyteller. If you're more familiar with him, let me know so are these true stories that are submitted that he narrates, or where does he get the stories from? Public domain or what? So Victor says MrBallen was an injured Navy SEAL. I didn't know that at all. But yeah, that fight or flight mode, man, a lot of times we sense danger, right? So we immediately, a majority of us hit that fight or flight mode to where it's action is go time in that immediate moment, Adrenaline, when your adrenaline gets kicking, you don't know what you can do. There's a lot of crazy stories about people who did crazy stuff on adrenaline, man. That'd be a cool video to actually look up next.
In the summer of 2015, a young man named Paul was on his last day of a 7-day solo backpacking trip through a very remote area in Utah called the Dark Canyon Wilderness. Dark Canyon gets its name from its steep walls that block light in the morning and in the late afternoon. It's an area that's only accessible by foot, and it's not uncommon to go in there and not see another person the whole time you're there. That morning, Paul got up and set off on a day hike that would take him through a very forested area up onto a plateau where he planned to camp out for the night. About a mile into the hike, he found some amazing elk antlers, and he decided he wanted to keep them. So he threw them on his backpack and rested them at the top and continued on his hike. But the added 15 pounds of weight proved to be far more exhausting than he was anticipating, and very quickly he blew through all of his water. Even though he was within 1 mile of his final destination, this plateau, he decided to stop because he was so dehydrated he needed to find water. So he puts his pack down, he puts the elk antlers down, and he starts walking around, and amazingly he does find some water. Granted, it was kind of a gross puddle of standing water, but he figured, I can boil this and it should be okay. And as he's preparing a fire to boil this standing water, he figures, you know what, if I'm making a fire here, I might as well just make my camp here. So he sets up his tent and then he makes a fire, and he's about to start boiling this water when he realizes how dumb he's being. If there's a puddle of standing water right here, then probably just a little ways upstream there's going to be some running water. Why don't I not boil this crappy water that will only yield, a couple sips of water, and go look for the running water where I can drink as much as I want? So he puts the pot down and he leaves all of his gear at the campsite and he begins walking up this mountain.
See that? He got greedy. All right, it's going to go left for him. He could have just got a sips of water, you know what I mean? Just being less is more. I feel like as soon as he got greedy, now he's trying to go upstream and, something's going to happen.
Mountain to hopefully find a stream. And after about a half mile of walking up this mountain, he finds this little spring. Immediately, he's down on hands and knees, drinking as much water as he possibly can because he's super dehydrated. And after he's drank for quite a while, he reaches down to his belt where he kept his water bottles. And he realized he left all of his gear, including his water bottles, at camp. So he didn't have a way to collect this water.
This guy.
And so he's like, shoot, I gotta go back to camp and get the bottle and come back.
Wouldn't the bottle be the first thing you think about bringing? I'm bringing me a whole gallon jug.
Burn a bunch of energy, but he's like, you know what can you do? I need the water. And so he gets up and he turns around and he starts walking back towards his camp. And immediately he starts to feel really anxious as he's walking back. He can't help but feel like someone's behind him watching him. And he kept turning his head thinking he's going to see someone just over the mountain who's quietly stalking him. And he just could not shake this feeling. And so as he's walking back to camp, every little sound he hears is totally throwing him off. Every little rustling leaf, every little bird overhead, he's totally on edge because he's convinced someone is behind me or someone's over there, someone's watching me. He finally gets back to camp, he gets his water bottles, and he considered not going back to the spring because he didn't want to cover that distance again because of how stressful it just was. But ultimately, he knows he needs the water. So either he's going to sit here for a really long time and boil a bunch of stagnant water, or he can just suck it up, walk to the spring, get some water, come back, and be good. Before he walks up to the spring, he grabs a really big stick to use as a club, and then he walks up. So now he's got some protection. And immediately, as he begins that half-mile trek to the spring, the anxiety pours right back over him, and he can't help but feel like someone is watching him. But he gets up to the spring, he fills his water bottles, he turns around, and he starts walking back, and he walks down this little rock face and lands on the trail he had just been on a minute ago, and he stops because he sees something on the ground that wasn't there before. A fresh mountain lion print is placed right in between two of his footprints that he had just made on his way back to the spring. Meaning, there's a mountain lion somewhere right around here that's not just watching me, it's hunting me. Paul doesn't really know what to do, so he runs to his campsite and gets in his tent and huddles in his tent for the rest of the night, hoping a mountain lion doesn't attack him. And fortunately, it does not. And what he thinks probably happened was when he picked up those elk antlers and put them on his backpack and was walking around with them, he probably attracted the mountain lion that thought he was an elk, and therefore...
That's wild. He attracted, so the scent of the antlers attracted a mountain lion. Mountain lion was hungry. He wanted a little snack. Yeah.
Delivery, Walmart Plus.
Or food.
We got 5 people in this live stream right now. Do me that favor and hit the like button, man. We should have at least 8 likes. So, MrBallen stories are from submitted, I guess, submitted viewers. That's crazy, man. What other narrators are you a fan of, Victor? If y'all got other narrators you're a fan of, let me know about them in the chat, man. I got Explore With Us is a new one I found. Of course, MrBallen, Mr. Nightmare. Nightmare Files was just some of the few that, you know, I tune into. There's several others as well. I just can't think of them off the top of my head right now. But if you know of others, YouTube narrators, etc., with good storytelling and good content in terms of, you know, how they sequence their videos and stuff like that, let me know in the comment section below. We got Patricia Tomei. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Patricia, but welcome. I appreciate you joining the live stream. We got 6 people in here right now. Do me a favor and hit the like button when you join the live stream, man. It only helps my videos get pushed out. So with that being said, where are y'all from? Let me know.
In April of 2020, a 17-year-old named Sam, who was an avid outdoorsman, decided to go on a one-night hike in the Superstition Mountains in Arizona. The mountain's name has a bunch of supposed origins, but the one that's generally accepted is people are afraid of the Superstition Mountains because of all the mysterious deaths that have occurred there.
Hey, I heard
and so
about this
because
story.
people would avoid these mountains in fear of mysterious death, it became these Superstitious Mountains. But Sam was not superstitious and regularly came out here to go hiking, in particular on this 8-mile loop that went through a canyon. And so this one night overnight he planned on doing was going to be on that 8-mile loop where he'd do 4 miles in, camp out and then 4 miles back. And he planned to do it with a friend, but his friend at the last minute canceled, and so Sam teetered on not even doing it, but ultimately decided, okay, I'll just do it by myself because I'm very familiar with this area. On the day he was supposed to go do this hike, he had planned on getting there early in the day to have maximum lighting, but due to some unforeseen circumstances and traffic and bad road conditions, he didn't get to the trailhead until 5:45 p.m. that night. Sam knew it was a bad idea to start this hike so late because he was going to run out of daylight. He probably was not going to make it 4 miles to the point where he planned to.
Bro, anytime I'm going camping, hiking, or anything like that, I gotta start with the early morning, bro. When nightfall starts to hit, of course I need to plan for any hike or any outdoor activity. That when nightfall hits, that's when we set up tent. That's when we set up shop. We crash for the night. You see countless stories, movies about people who get lost, and it's like they didn't plan the trip correctly. They depart at a later time, but around the time the sun sets, they haven't reached their destination and they're still traveling. Or they don't know how to set up shop in that moment and just kick back, and they end up getting lost. Man, the Blair Witch Project was like that, man. If anything, movies have taught us, man, plan accordingly. They're like, oh, the sun's about to set in an hour and a half. Oh, let's keep going. Nah, I ain't gonna keep going. Let's set up shop. Let's crash. See what's cracking the next morning. You know what I'm saying?
Done camping out, but he figured with his good health and fitness, he could probably quickly make his way to the 2 or even 3 mile mark, and there were some suitable campsites there. And so he decided he would kind of risk it and just try to go as fast as he could and use the daylight he had to reach a suitable campsite. But he wasn't able to move as fast as he thought he could, and soon the sun was down and it's totally dark, and he's got his flashlight, but that only is able to shine like 10 feet in front of him. And then at one point he nearly falls off of this rock, and he knows had he fallen, he would have gotten really badly hurt, and he's 15 miles away from the nearest help, and he's in a bad cell phone service area, and the roads getting out here are treacherous. No one knows exactly where he is, and it dawns on him that you've made a pretty bad choice, and you should stop right now and make camp here and not try to risk it any further. And so as it happened, where he was, there was this forest right nearby, and he could see there was a clearing about 30 feet off the path when he shined his light. And so he walked into that clearing, and he found it was a great spot to make camp. And in fact, on the edge of this clearing was the remnants of a fire pit. It was very old, but it at least showed someone had camped out right here. And
I don't like open spaces, y'all. I gotta say this, my apologies for pausing. I don't like open spaces. So if I went camping, I'm not setting up shop in a clearing. Even though the clearings are meant for campsites. That's just weird to me, bro, because you're a sitting duck at that point. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna camp off in the shrubs or off in the tree line somewhere to where you are not, all right, if I'm walking through an area, I could probably notice a tent. I'm not saying I'd be camouflaged or invisible, but a plain open area, nah, you just asking for it, especially if there's like a weirdo in the woods or in the forest at night. That's just not anything I do. I don't like, you would sit and duck at that point.
And they seemed to have made it just fine. So suddenly he was feeling pretty smart, and he felt pretty good about where he was staying for the night. Now, Sam intentionally did not bring a tent. He liked to sleep on a sleeping pad with a sleeping bag over that, and then he would string up a tarp over the top of him in case it rained. And since this clearing was surrounded by a bunch of pine trees, he was able to string up his tarp over the top, and it was perfect. And pretty soon he had a fire going, and then he cracked open a can of beans, and he began eating his dinner. And as he was eating, he started to get a sense that something was off, something was not right. He began scanning the tree line as if he was going to find something out of the ordinary, but his visibility was incredibly limited because he was sitting right up against a fire, and if you've ever sat next to a fire in a dark forest, your visibility is like 5 feet in a circle around the fire.
Exactly. That's another thing, man. That's another thing.
You really cannot see beyond that. And his vision was also limited by all the pine trees that encircled his clearing. So he really could only see what was immediately around him, nothing else. And
real quick, if I'm going camping, I'm just a very discreet person, bro. I don't like drawing attention to myself, unnecessary attention. I'm not starting a fire unless it's mandatory. I gotta cook something. You got a flashlight, you can see. If I got some canned beans, I'm opening the can and I'm eating them cold. I'm not going to try to heat them over an open fire. I'm not making s'mores. I'm not making dogs. Like, I don't know, man. I would keep a very low profile.
He starts thinking, that's got to be it. Maybe I'm just nervous.
Oh, we got Mr. 79 Man in the building. Shout out to Mr. 79 Man. Now, you're not late to the party. You right on time. What's everybody saying in the live chat, man? What's everybody talking about? Do you like drums? Yes, you did. I'm confused. Victor's back home in Ohio. True West magazine is neat as well as Loose Cannon. I guess they also having y'all's own conversation, but I'll see my way out of it.
Because I have no visibility. But as he's rationalizing this kind of bad gut feeling, a rock the size of a marble comes soaring into the campsite and lands at his feet. And he looks down at the rock, and immediately he connects that to that sense of dread he had. And he's looking around a little more aggressively now, but again, his vision is very, very limited. And so for the next 15 minutes, Sam is really aggressively scanning the tree line and listening really intently, and he doesn't hear anything, he doesn't see any more rocks get thrown. And so he begins to rationalize and convince himself that there's nothing wrong here. That feeling I have, oh, don't worry about that. He starts telling himself, you know, I must have kicked a rock. That's what it is. Or maybe a rock fell off a tree. But either way, it's something totally explainable and you got nothing to worry about. And after a little while, he convinced himself and he got into his sleeping bag under his tarp and he went to sleep. A couple of hours later, Sam wakes up and he has that same sense of dread, and now it's back with a vengeance. And he can't hear anything, he can't see anything, but he's definitely feeling like something is wrong. And at that moment, as he's listening really intently and looking really carefully, he hears the sound of rustling leaves. It sounds like someone walking through leaves about 30 or 40 meters away from his campsite. And initially, he can't tell if this person or animal is walking towards his campsite or away, but over the next 30 seconds or so, the sounds start to fade, and he convinces himself that, okay, they've left and everything's fine. But just in case, he wanted to grab his flashlight and shine it in that direction, and so he reaches next to him where he had left it when he had gone to bed a couple hours earlier, and he can't find his flashlight. He's looking around for it, and he can't find it, and he's like, man, that's weird. I had it right here, right next to my body, and it's not here anymore. And that's when the alarm bells start going off in his head, because the only way this flashlight moves is if he moved it. And if it's not here, how did it move? And so he jumps out of his sleeping bag, he ducks out from under the tarp, and he's looking around on the ground in the immediate vicinity of where he was sleeping to find this flashlight. And as he's looking, out of the corner of his eye, he sees some light. And he turns his head, and in the same direction that he had heard those footsteps, those rustling leaves, when he was still laying down, he sees his flashlight laying on the ground about 10 meters away. Which means someone or something had been less than a foot away from him to get this flashlight that was right next to him while he was fast asleep and totally helpless, and had moved it all the way over there. And immediately, Sam thinks to himself, that's a trap. They are trying to lure me away from my campsite. Suddenly, he felt so scared he wanted to vomit, but he knew in order to survive this situation, he needed to keep his wits about him. So he puts his boots on and he grabs his knife, and he knows he's not leaving this campsite. In fact, he's going to build the biggest fire he can. He's going to stoke that fire as big as he can get it, and he's not going to go anywhere near that flashlight. For the next several hours, Sam just stood in the middle of his campsite holding his knife, preparing to confront whatever the heck is out in the woods. And over those several hours, he would hear footsteps approach his campsite, turn around, and leave. Every time the fire got lower, he noticed they would come closer and closer and closer, and when he would stoke the fire, they wouldn't come as close. But at about 3 a.m., he ran out of firewood, so unless he went into the woods to get more, he'd be out, and he's certainly not going into the woods. That's the whole point, is to avoid the woods where this thing is. And so as the fire died down, Sam prepared himself mentally for whatever happened next, because he knew that with that fire gone, this thing was comfortable coming all the way in, coming all the way...
This thing? So what are they saying? It's a creature or something? Scared of fire? What's it, a vampire?
Up right next to him to get the flashlight. And so finally, he hears the footsteps approaching. And before this, the closest they had come was maybe about 15 meters away. They were far enough away it didn't feel intimate. It was terrifying, but he had some distance. This time, they walk right up to about 3 meters away, but they intentionally come behind the thickest group of trees, so he can't see them. And it's still dark outside, and he's in that bubble of light near the fire, so he's blind to whatever's on the other side of those trees. But he knows they're there, and they've stopped. And for 2 hours, this poor kid is standing in the middle of this campsite, facing in the direction of whatever is behind the trees. Probably his imagination is going crazy at this point with what could be behind those trees.
Yeah, I bet.
Just waiting for whatever happened next. But ultimately, the only thing that would happen is the sun would eventually come up, and right before it actually popped over the horizon, this thing on the other side finally moved. It turned around and ran away, and it did not come back.
See? It ran away when the sun came out. What else is that, bro?
And so when the sun finally did come up, Sam didn't just charge out of there because he's still thinking there could be a trap. He waited until it was totally full sunlight, and then he packed up everything he had, and he practically sprinted back to the parking lot, back into his car, and he drove nonstop for 20 miles until he got to a gas station where he could park and collect himself. And when he got there, he got out of his car and he went in and he got a drink. And when he came out, he noticed someone had written something on the dust on the back window of his car. And he walks over and it just says, "Sleep well?" ? Sam is confident whoever was stalking him at his campsite is the same person or group of people that wrote this message on his car. And now Sam just wonders, what would have happened if I retrieved that flashlight? So that's going to do it, guys. Let me know in the comments what you thought of today's stories, and I will pin the best comment at the top of the comments section. If you enjoyed today's stories and you haven't done this already, please sneak under...
He would have got finessed if he went and grabbed a flashlight. That's what would have happened, man. So that's top 3 scariest stalker stories by MrBallen. That's my first live stream reaction to ever do some MrBallen content, man. He's great. He's great. He decent. He alright. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like I say, I'm just rocking with Explore with us, man. I really like just the various forms of like the mystique or the mysterious kind of content they have, as well as just the way it's narrated, as well as the visuals they use. You know, they use actual video, I guess, you know, obviously from some real life cases, so it's a little bit more, I don't know, nitty gritty to me. But let me know y'all's thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Top 3 scariest stalker stories. Let me know if y'all want. What I could do is just, the thing is, yesterday I did like 3 reactions. Actually, I did 4 different reactions under the Explore With Us channel. Let me take a look at what MrBallen, what else
Where is it?
got.
Clearly.
I'm the guy in the background. So we got Patricia, Mr. 79, man. I don't know who else is still in here, but make yourself known. I don't know what's the drums. If it's music, I'm not reacting to any music live. I don't do music live any longer. Music live is probably the quickest way to get blocked or get content taken down. So I don't try to play around with doing live music reactions on my channel. I mean, a lot of people do them. I just haven't had good success with them. I've gotten copyright strikes. You know what I mean? I've gotten strikes for reacting to music. And a lot of the music reactions, if I do them live, the copyright will, you know, sometimes mess with the live stream. It'll black out, stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't really want to play around with doing a lot of music reactions on live stream. If I do live stream reactions, it's going to be content like this. Funny content, top 5 content, top 10 content, trending news content. Those are the type of reactions I'll do on live stream. I'm not trying to consistently try to do music on live stream. Music reactions are uploaded. I film those and I, you know, upload them myself. You know what I mean? I film, edit, and upload those, whereas live stream is a live stream, right? Music The copyright with it, man, I just don't play around with it. MrBallen's a former Navy SEAL. Yep, that's what I heard too, man. So I don't know. Let's take a look together, man. We got 9 people in this live stream currently. That's like the peak. If you're in a live stream, do me a favor and hit the like button, man. If we get to, where are we at? How many likes do we got right now? We're about to hit 17K subscribers, man. Literally got an additional 1,000 subscribers within a week and a half. Isn't that crazy? I don't know why we're growing so much more recently, but I literally hit 16K like nearly almost 2 weeks ago. It's been like a week and a half now. And I'm at 16.9. I'm about to hit 17K. I think we're going to hit 17,000 subscribers tomorrow. So, man, we're at 12 likes right now, man. Let's get to 15 likes. 3 more likes. 3 more likes, man. If 3 more people like this video, I'm hopping into the next reaction. We need 15 total likes. Checking, do I like the drums? Are you just talking about the instrument? Yeah, the drums is cool. I rock with the drums. The drums are cool. I rock with the drums. I heard MrBallen. Yeah, Victor mentioned MrBallen's a Navy SEAL. We got Joey Alter, Joey Chain Alter in the building, man. Shout out to Joey. I think this is probably your first live stream, man. So I appreciate you, man. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Yeah, I like the drums, without a doubt. I like any instrument. But let me see. So you're saying there's a 10-year-old girl from the UK that challenged David Grohl from Foo Fighters to a drum battle. Her name is Nandi Michelle. Okay. I'll check that out. I'll check that out, man. We need 15 likes to hop into the next reaction. We need 15 likes. I jotted that down for the future, Patricia. So yes, I will look into that reaction. But as of right now, let's stick to the theme. Let's stick to the theme. Check the rescue of Jessica Buchanan. I'll tell you the rest of the story later. Is this on MrBallen's channel? What is y'all talking about? The rescue of Jessica Buchanan. I said Buchanan. Buchanan. Is this on MrBallen's channel? The heck? This is a CBS News segment. That's crazy. Yeah, man. Let's see how many likes we're at right now. If we're at 15 likes, I'll hop into this reaction that Victor recommended. Let's see. We got 10 people watching right now, man. Somebody do me a favor and hit the like button. Hit the like button. We need one more like to hop into the next reaction. One more like. Somebody hit the like button. We need 15 likes to hop into the next reaction. Please, somebody hit the like button. $15 likes, y'all. 15 likes to see the next reaction. Right now, we're still at 14. I'm going to be Batman next year for Halloween. Atta boy. All right, how many likes we at, man? We got 11 people in the live stream. Somebody hit the like button. Hit the like button. You were like number 10. Sweet. I appreciate you. Yeah, we have 15 likes. We have 15 likes. Nah, we still, dang, man. Yeah, we have 15, man. So let's hop into this reaction. Jessica, what?
Tonight, for the first time, we have the story of the rescue of Jessica Buchanan. It is the tale of a secret mission by SEAL Team 6 that few people have heard about until now. On a January night in 2012, members of SEAL Team 6 jumped from a plane into the skies of Somalia. Jessica Buchanan was being held hostage, and the SEALs were descending just in time. Buchanan was a humanitarian aid worker who had come to help children in one of the most dangerous places on earth. Hers was an ordeal that ended in a flash of violence, but had begun 93 days earlier when her car was stopped by bandits in a place she calls hell. The story will continue in a moment.
We stopped very abruptly, like so abruptly that I felt like everybody just fall forward. And then I start hearing all of this pounding on the windows and the windshield and all this shouting in Somali. And there's a man standing there screaming, and he has an AK-47 and he's shouting and he's pointing it at us. And then he climbs into the car next to me and he points an AK in my face. And they're hyped up like they're on speed. And all of a sudden we just take off. The driver just takes off and we just start slamming all over the place down these camel tracks.
What did you think they were going to do?
I figured they were going to rape me and then kill me. And I just keep thinking, this can't be the end. This can't be the end of my life. I'm only 32 years old. I haven't had any children yet. I didn't get to say goodbye to Eric. I didn't get to say goodbye to my dad. Like, this can't be the end.
Jessica Buchanan was facing the end at the end of the earth. Somalia, on the farthest tip of Africa, is war-torn and lawless. This is essentially no man's land. Militias battle over an unforgiving land, as we saw while covering a famine there in 2011. It was the same year that Buchanan was with a Danish charity teaching children how to avoid landmines. On October 25th, her car was hijacked.
The driver is driving like just a madman. We're bouncing all over the place. My head keeps hitting the window. It keeps hitting the roof. I'm holding on to the side, the handle on the Land Cruiser, just trying to keep myself steady.
What happened next?
It gets dark and we've changed vehicles a couple of times. More people have come. They're screaming. And I hear from behind me a higher pitched voice going on in Somali. And I think, my God, they have a woman involved in this. And I turn around and I see a small child in the back of the Land Cruiser with an AK-47.
Dang.
Draped in...
Young Savage. They be breeding savages. It ain't even... Bro, Africa, like, period, is a war zone. Like, there's a lot of war going on in Africa. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. Like, that's my first understanding of, like, kids being bred for war. You know what I mean? Like, because I hear the stories. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all know my background and stuff like that. But it's like kids posted up with AKs and stuff like that. Several different countries, that's just a walk in the park. Like, that's normal. Like, and so a lot of the Middle Eastern places, obviously, that's common as well. Like, third world countries, stuff like that.
ammunition. And I think the irony of why I came to Africa in the first place.
Exactly the kid you were trying to save. A child soldier.
Yeah.
What was he doing?
Learning the trade.
It's young savage.
She'd been kidnapped along with a co-worker, Paul Fisted. They drove into the night, and then were ordered to march into the desert.
And they tell us to get down onto our knees. And I think, okay, this is it. Like, I'm bracing myself to be shot in the back of the head. And I think that there's mercy in the fact that maybe they're not going to rape me first, but that it's just going to be quick. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And then all of a sudden somebody shouts from behind us, "Sleep." And I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't hear that correctly, did I? He just said sleep.
She collapsed, slept through the night, and the next morning was met by the man who led the bandits.
And we ask him, "Are you going to kill us? Is that why we're here?" He says, no. Money. We just want money.
How much were they asking for?
They started out at $45 million.
They thought you were pretty valuable.
I guess so.
The bandits used her cell phone to call her husband, Eric Landemam. The two had married on an African beach 2 years before. But his number and the numbers of Buchanan's family had all been disconnected. It was part of the charity's emergency plan. The one number that worked was her Nairobi office with a hostage negotiator standing by. And so began months of talks. Where did they keep you? Day in, day out?
Under trees. And outside.
You were outdoors for 93 days?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in the night, they forced us to sleep out in the open.
What were the nights like?
Long and cold. Then the rainy season hit, and it would rain all night long, and you're already freezing, so then you're sitting there wet.
What were you eating?
Tuna fish, maybe once a day. We would get a small can of tuna fish and a piece of bread.
Did you feel like you were beginning to lose your humanity at any point?
Yeah, I mean, they treated us like animals. To be so sick that, you're vomiting behind bushes and you can't walk straight, and you're laying in the fetal position on the ground under a tree, and they don't care. Their duty was to keep me from dying, because then I wasn't worth anything.
They were in the hands of men and boys who were chewing khat. It's a plant with the same effect as amphetamines.
Dang.
They were so hyped up on speed. It was like drinking pot after pot of coffee, and then the crash would come, and then it brought...
I'm guilty of that, bro. I be drinking pot after pot of coffee, but there ain't no feeling like... I've never done speed, but bro, you trying to compare speed to caffeine, a caffeine high? I don't know, but that's crazy though. Talk about
a lot of belligerence and a lot of anger and a lot of temper.
You and Paul came up with nicknames for a lot of the people who were keeping you. That's one of the ways you kept yourself occupied.
We did.
The 10-year-old boy?
Crack baby. He was
Crack
cracked out
baby.
all the time. He was chewing khat, and he had 2 black holes for eyes. There was nothing inside.
This is one of
Dang.
the camps where she was held. The bandits hit her, pointed their guns at her, and put a knife to her throat. But it was exposure that took a toll. She lost 25 pounds. After 3 weeks, the bandits made a video to prove that she was alive. Have you seen the video?
I have.
Paul and myself, Jessica, we are safe and we are alive.
I can tell I'm starting to lose hope at that point.
But hope would have to last for 2 more months. As the many weeks went by, did you think the American government's watching me, they know where I am, and somebody's going to get me out of here?
No.
Why?
Because I'm just an aid worker.
You didn't imagine that the President of the United States knew your name?
Never. Never in a million years.
After 3 months in the desert, Buchanan had a serious urinary tract infection, and in a final call to the hostage negotiator, she said this.
I'd become so ill that I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. I was in so much pain. And I said, I think I have a kidney infection. And I started to cry and I said, I'm afraid I'm going to die out here.
When that call was received here in Nairobi, it set off a chain of events that led all the way to the Oval Office. The FBI and the military consulted doctors who said that if Jessica had a kidney infection, she might have just 2 weeks to live. That was transmitted to the president, who was also informed that in just a few days, there would be a new moon. Perfect darkness for a SEAL team rescue. Jessica Buchanan had chosen a star in the Somali sky to represent her mother, who had passed away a year before. She spoke to it every night, and with no moon, it was especially bright on January 25th. What did you say that night?
Please tell God that I need some help. We need to get out of here.
You couldn't have known that that prayer would be answered that night.
I had no idea.
She was on a mat trying to sleep when she heard a faint scratching noise. One of the bandits she nicknamed Helper heard it too.
And I see this look of just sheer terror on Helper's face. And then all of a sudden, it's just this eruption of gunfire. And I think, okay, well, this is it. This really is truly the end. And I cover up with my blanket again, and I just start saying, oh God, oh God, oh God. And I just remember thinking, or maybe I'm saying out loud, like, I cannot survive this.
She thought she was being taken by a rival group, maybe Al-Shabaab, Islamic extremists who would surely kill her.
Dang.
And then all of a sudden, I feel all these hands on me, roughly grabbing at me. And I try to protect myself. And I pull the blanket closer on top of me, and then I hear my name. But it's not a Somali accent, it's an American accent. And I can't compute, like I can't understand that somebody with an American accent knows my name. And they say, Jessica, we're with the American military. We're here to take you home, and you're safe. And I pull the blanket down from my face, and all I see is black mask.
You was like, she was probably, she in shock, obviously. Like, Debbie, this is a wild story. I never heard of this story a day in my life. Like, maybe I have. I'm probably just, forgot about it in passing, but this crazy, man. This wild. Cause then now, like, it makes me think of this other story about some other dude that was like held captive. I forgot where he was, but he was held in like some country's prison for like 3 or 4 months or something like that. It was wild. And it was all because I think like, I don't know, something dumb like weed or something like that. I don't know. Like he got caught with paraphernalia or something like that. And then they threw him in prison. But like there were some complications and Buddy was in there for 3 or 4 months. And he was a popular entertainer. Not super popular, but he was a DJ, right? He was a DJ for a popular artist. So it's not like he was a nobody. And I think that artist was trying to vouch with him, or vouch with, the governments, etc., trying to get him out. But dude was in there 3 months and they said they fed him once a day. Once a day, bro.
masks, black sky, and all I can say over and over is, "You're American. You're American. I don't understand. You're Americans." Thinking, how did you get here? And I'm still alive. And they ask me where my shoes are, and I don't know. And one of them picks me up and starts running. He runs for several minutes and puts me down on the ground. And then they identify themselves, and that they knew I was very sick. And they have medicine, and they have water, they have food, and they've come to take me home. At one point, I think they thought they heard something, or I don't know. This group of men who's risked their life for me already asks me to lie down on the ground because they're concerned that there might be someone out there, and then they make a circle around me, and then they lie down on top of me to protect me.
For sure, for sure.
And we lay like that until the helicopters come in.
When all of those SEALs laid down on top of you, you were the most important thing in the world to them.
It's really hard to comprehend.
They were going to take a bullet for you.
Mm-hmm. And they're so kind, and they're so gentle, and they are trying to assist me to get to the helicopter. But I think I've been out here for months. I can run to this helicopter myself, and so I just break away, and I just take off running through the scrub, through the bush, and I throw myself onto that helicopter and push myself up against the wall. And I don't start breathing until we actually lift up off the ground. And they hand me an American flag that's folded.
What did you think of that?
I just started to cry. At that point in time, I have never in my life been so proud and so very happy to be an American.
The SEALs left on other helicopters. She didn't see their faces, didn't hear their names. They appeared, and they were gone. The only thing left in the camp were 9 dead bandits.
Mr. Speaker!
It all ended just hours before the State of the Union address. As the president walked in, he had a secret with Defense Secretary Leon Panetta that almost no one understood until later.
Good job tonight. Good job tonight.
After the speech, President Obama called Buchanan's father. Jessica met her husband, Eric, at a U.S. base in Italy.
I just couldn't believe he was standing there and that I was standing there. And we had a second chance. And then later we flew to Portland, Oregon, and I was reunited with my father and my brother and my sister and her husband.
What was the first thing you said to your father?
Daddy. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through this.
Dang, talk about some. She's apologizing.
But we
Dang.
need it.
So did her Danish co-worker, Paul Fisted, who was also rescued by the SEALs. He said later that his lucky break was being captured with an American. Jessica Buchanan has told her story in a new book, Impossible Odds, coming out this week. You may recall that she said that her first thought when being taken was that she was too young to die because she hadn't had children. Well, she's taken care of that too. She and her husband have a baby boy, and they've moved back to the States from East Africa.
Nice. So that's the rescue of Jessica Buchanan. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm really familiar with that story, but appreciate the recommendation, man. We got 6 viewers. We've been live for about an hour now. A lot of comments have been posted, but Patricia's never had a cup of coffee? What? Pepsi Zero. Nah. You gotta drink regular Pepsi. Victor was head over Team 6. Jeez, Victor. Who are you, bro? The mystery man. The man, the myth, the legend. Victor Bradshaw. Patricia's husband was in the first Gulf War. Yeah, thank you for your service. I got 2 brothers in the Air Force, so I appreciate y'all, man, being a part of this live stream. Been live for an hour, as I mentioned. Yeah, this is definitely not only a MrBallen reaction, so I'm definitely gonna end up changing the title to this video and this live, you know, just to a late night reaction, late night live stream, live reactions, etc. Be sure to comment, you know, after the video is posted, like the video as well. Yeah, man, it's 1 a.m. over here. I don't know, what's it like, 11 over on the West Coast, something like that, but I think I'm done for the night. I'm kind of tired right now. I ain't gonna lie. I'm pretty tired right now. Yeah, man, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap it up. So appreciate everybody watching, man. I'm not gonna do these every night, but I think I'm gonna stick to a specific schedule. Starting next week, I may do these Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna try to, yeah, I don't know, like me, I'm so like, I guess like, I just do a lot of things off whim. I'm in the moment, spontaneous, like, so I don't necessarily know if I can always schedule them, you know what I mean? But definitely keep the lookout for Friday nights. I'm going to try to schedule these to where you actually see a schedule, a notification or whatever. And you'll see it on my channel, you know, letting you know basically when the premiere will be. But I'm wanting to do these every Friday night. So everybody stay in tune, stay engaged. I said stay engaged. See, I'm already slurring over my words. Like, I can't even, you know, I'm about to pass out. But I appreciate everybody watching, man. So peace, love, prosperity. Catch you guys next time. I really just wanted to hop on live because I didn't really post content today. I was, you know, busy doing other things. But yeah, I got videos tomorrow. A lot of reactions, and Patricia, I definitely have your recommendation on my list, so I appreciate everybody, man. Peace, love, prosperity. Everybody have a